All right, today we're going to be looking at solving equations with variables on each side. And they give you a real-world link idea here. If you're going to do a camping activity where you are renting kayaks and renting bicycles, and you were curious, what would the number of days be where I would rent the kayaks or rent the bicycles and end up paying the same amount of money, then we would use this type of idea, variables on both sides, and we call these systems of equations. So the idea would be what value of x is going to make this part, 5.5 times x plus 3, have the same value as 5x plus 6. That's what we're doing when we solve. We're finding the x that makes both of these equal. So let's jump on down to the first example, and you can see it uses both tiles and uses the equation. So what would x have to be for 3x to be the same as x plus 8? And we go through exactly what we've done before. The first step is going to be get all the x's to one side. That's what we're doing in this step, is we're saying, what do we have to do so that only one side has x on it? Let me put my reflection line in just so I remember to do that. So step one, subtract the x's from the right side, and that means you also have to subtract an x from the left side. Now you'll notice by the time we get down to this step, we have only the x's on one side. We have 2x is equal 8, so we're going to divide both those sides by 2. We're dividing by the coefficient. We're also using that to get x by itself, and that's going to leave us with x equal to 4. And then the one thing they did not do here that we are going to do is we're just going to check to see, did we do that correctly? And when we check to see did we do that correctly, we're going to go back to the original equation, which was 3 times x. So then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to check our work, and we're going to see if we like that answer of 4, because they didn't check their work. And when you check, you would go back and you'd say, all right, is 3 times 4 equal to 4 plus 8? Well, 3 times 4 is 12, yay. 4 plus 8 is 12, yay. And we've done this problem correctly. All right, so there are a couple of got it problems for you. Would you go ahead, work those two got it problems out, and then restart the video? So let's do the first one. 7x is equal to 5x plus 4. So here is the reflection line, a reminder line. Do the same thing on both sides, whatever you do. Step one, eliminate the smaller number of x's. Get rid of the x's on the side that has the fewest x's. You could do it the other way. You could get rid of the 7x, but then you're going to have all this equal to 0, and that's not going to really get you your answer. So when we do that first step, these cancel out, gone, gone, and we're left with a 4 on this side, and on this side we're left with 2 x's. 7 x's take away 5 x's. Then our final step is to say, all right, I don't want to know what 2x is equal. I want to know what 1x is equal to, so divide by 2, and I get my 1x is equal to 2. And then, let's see what it looks like if I write green on green here. And then I want to know, is 7 times 2 the same as 5 times 2 plus 4? Well, 7 times 2 is 14. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 4 is also 14. Yay, that feels like it's the correct answer. All right, we'll do 1b up here. 3x minus 2 is equal to x. Now remember I said I like to take away the x's that are in the smallest group. Well, the problem is if I do that here, if I take away the x from both sides, I end up with 0. So here I am actually going to take away the 3x from both sides. And when I do that, this cancels out. My 3x is canceled by my minus 3x. I end up with -2 is equal to x take away 3x is -2x's. And then I'm going to divide by the coefficient, which is -2. And I'm going to find out that for this problem, the value of x is 1. And I can check that value of x. Let's do that right here. If you have 3 times 1 minus 2, is that equal to 1? Well, sure, 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. So, yes. Now, the other way to get a solution to this problem, and something that some students would find easier, let's start again with our 3x minus 2 equals x. What some students would do that they find simpler so they don't have to deal with as many negatives is they would add a 2 to both sides first. So they're actually canceling this. And they're not getting rid of the ones, they're just moving the ones around. They are getting rid of them from that side though. So now they've got 3x is equal to x plus 2. Now if we take our x away from each side, we end up with 3x minus x is 2x equals x plus 2 minus x. There's where the cancel. Every step you do, you're going to be canceling something out. That cancels out the x, and we end up with 2x equals 2. And we still have to divide by the coefficient. And we again end up with x is equal to 1. So that took us an extra step, but it didn't cause us to have to deal with any negatives. So that's certainly an option depending on your comfort level. All right, let's move on. So they're going to walk us through some more examples. They're going to walk us through examples where the coefficients are not integers. And you've got these two problems to do. So why don't you go ahead, pause the video, do 2A and B. I'm going to write out the answers while you're doing it, and then we'll come back and look together. So when I went ahead and did the first one, and what I decided to do is to do A, let you walk through it, and then pause again and do B. Now, if you just play the video through, you'll see them both. So, same idea. I had the 2.1x plus 3 equals 3.1x minus 2. Went ahead and drew my reflection line. My first step was right here. I decided I'm going to remove the x's from the left side. So I subtracted 2.1x's. That canceled out. I had to subtract 2.1x over here. So 3.1x minus 2.1x is 1x. Yes, I put the coefficient. I didn't need it, but I want to just keep track of the fact that it was 1x. My next step then was to go ahead and add 2 because I had subtract 2 here. So where my 3 equals x minus 2, add a 2 to both sides, I get 5 equals 1x, which meant 5 was the value of x. Went ahead and did the check, and it worked out to be correct. All right, so if you didn't get that right, go back and look at my work, see what you might have done. Then pause the video if you feel like, oh, I need to redo B, or I need to look at my work on B because I think I made a mistake. And then turn the video back on. All right, here is my work on the second problem. And I decided as a very first step to go ahead and get myself a common denominator because I knew I was going to have to work with these fourths, with the 3/4 and a half. So now I'm going to eliminate the 2/4 P because that's the smaller amount. 2/4 is less than 3/4. Eliminating the smaller amount keeps me from working with negative variables later, and negative variables can be confusing. So I go ahead and eliminate that. That brings me then to this line. What's left is the negative 15p here, 3/4 p, take away 2/4 is 1/4, and still minus 3. That just came down. That didn't change, just like this minus 15 didn't change. But it becomes negative 15. Originally it was 2/4 p minus 15. Now when it's sitting by itself, it's a negative 15. Then my next step, since the p's are on this side now, is to eliminate the minus 3. So I add 3 to both sides. That cancels that out. And once I add 3 here, negative 15 plus 3 is going to be negative 12, 3 0 pairs. Now I'm at this line, and the purple is what I started on that line, and then the red is my next step. Because my next step is to go ahead and say, all right, if I've got a fourth P, then to get rid of that coefficient of 1/4, I'm going to multiply by 4. So 4 times a fourth is 1, so 1p. And 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. And then you can check my work here. There's the check for this particular problem. So replay that explanation if you need some more help with that, and then we'll move on to the next part of the book. Okay, example 3. Now we're into some real-world situations. So there are times when you want to look at 2 different things, and you want to figure out when they will cost you the same amount. This example 3 is a good example of that. There's one personal trainer who charges a one-time fee of $60 and $25 for each session. A fitness club charges a yearly fee of $450. Wow, it's a whole lot more, but only $10 for each session. So write and solve an equation to determine for what number of sessions the cost will be equal. This is what somebody would want to know if they were saying, I'm going to sign up for some fitness training. Do I go with the personal trainer who charges the $60 but hits me $25 every time I go? Or do I pay my $450 to a fitness club and know that I can use their personal trainers for just $10 a session? So here's the setup for the problem. This $60 is the one-time fee for the trainer, $25 times S. So we've said right here, let S be the number of sessions. Over here, we have $450 to join the health club, but only $10 for a session. So as we work our way through, we take away the 10S from each side. That's going to cause this to cancel out. And 25S take away 10S is 15S. Then we take away the 60 from each side. We're left with 15S is equal to 390, and if we do the division, we get 26, and you would need to go to 26 sessions. So basically 1 session every 2 weeks. If you did that, it's worth going to the fitness club. It's worth paying that $450. If you're less than 26, you're better off paying the $60 to the trainer and paying $25 every time you go. Right, so would you go ahead and do this got it problem about the Redbird cruises, and then turn the video back on and we'll discuss it. Okay, I've set my problem up and I'm ready to go. I decided to use D as my variable, and I defined that as the days on the cruise. So $85 per day plus a $75 one-time fee, that's for Redbird, or $100 a day plus a $30 one-time fee, that's for King Cruises. So I'm going to start by looking at the D's, and I realize I have fewer D's over here, so I'm going to get rid of those. If I take away 85 D's here, they all disappear, and I have the 75 left. If I take away 85 D's here, I've got 15 D's left, and my 30. So now that I have all the D's on the right, I want to move all of the 1's to the left. I want to get all of these over there. So my method to do that is to go ahead and take away the 30, and I have to do that on both sides again. So I take away 30 on both sides, and I end up with 15D. Notice the parts that don't change. After I eliminated that, the 75 didn't change. I was working with nothing but D's in that first step, so my 30 just came down. Now my 15 is coming down because it's 15 D's, and I'm dealing with the 1's now. So I just canceled these out. That's gone. And on the left-hand side, 75 take away 30 is 45. So my next step then is to say, all right, if 15 days are the 45, what's one day? So I have to divide by 15. Divide by 15, and I get 3 as the answer for D. So what the 3 stands for is the number of days that I could go on each cruise and pay the same price. So let's just see. If you called up Redbird Cruises and said, what will it cost me to go cruising for 3 days? They would say, well, sir, we're going to charge you $85 for each of those 3 days, plus we're going to charge you a one-time fee of $75. So for the days, we're going to charge you 85 times 3. 3 times 8 is 24, so that's 240, plus 3 times 5 is 15, so that's $255 for your daily fee plus the 75. We're going to charge you a total of, let's see, 255, add the 5, that's 260, add the 7, that looks like $330 to cruise with us for 3 days. That is Redbird. Now, King Cruises, so you wonder, okay, I'm going to go for 3 days. What would it cost me to go to King Cruises? So you call them up, and they say, hey, great, glad you called. We're going to charge you $100 a day for each of those 3 days, and we're only going to charge you $30. Those guys over at Redbird, they try to rip you off. They charge you $75. You're probably asking, well, wait a minute, those guys at Redbird only charge me $85 a day. You charge me $100. But in any case, so 100 times 3 days, that's going to be $300 for daily cruises, plus the 31 time fee. 300 times the 30 also gives us $330 for 3 days. So if you're cruising for only, say, 1 day, for 1 day you are better off going to King Cruises and say, I'll pay you the $100 for 1 day plus the $30. So if you went just for a single day, a 1 day cruise over here would be 100 times 1 plus the $30. That would be $130. If you went on a 1 day cruise over here, you're paying $85 for the 1 day, and you're paying $75 for that fee. That's going to end up being $160. So if you just want a 1 day cruise. Now, on the other hand, if you're cruising for 10 days, if you said, man, I've got a lot of vacation time, I'm going to go for 10 days. Well, over here, you would pay 85 times the 10 plus the 75. That would be 850 plus the 75. You would pay $925 to go for 10 days. Notice, you get to go 10 times as much. It certainly doesn't cost you 10 times as much. That's because your daily rate is the smaller amount. Over here, on the other hand, if you went for 10 days, you would pay $100 a day for the 10 days plus $30. This would cost you $1,000 in daily fees plus your 30. This would cost you $1,030 altogether. So for only 1 or 2 days of cruise, go to King Cruises. They're going to be your place. But if you decide to cruise a lot, like a 10-day cruise, you're definitely better off at Redbird. Okay, I flipped over to the guided practice. Would you go ahead and do guided practice problem 5 and problem 7, and then turn the video back on and we'll discuss the answers to those. And then I think you're ready to move on and work on homework. So looking at problem number 5, we have 4/9 x minus 1 equals 5/9 x plus 2. I'm going to eliminate the 4/9 x. Take away the fewer number of x's. So when I eliminate that, this cancels. Gone, gone, gone. This comes down. So my minus 1 now is negative 1. Negative 1 is equal to 5/9 minus 4/9 is 1/9 x. and my plus 2 comes down. So I have 1/9 x plus 2 is equal to -1. My next step, since the x's are on the right side, is to get rid of the 1's from the right side. So I'm going to take away 2 on each side. When I do that, this cancels out. I'm left on the right side with 1/9 x, and that's equal to -1 minus 2 more is -3. Then I'm going to multiply, because I want to get rid of this coefficient of 1/9. So I'm going to multiply by 9, multiply by the inverse. Do the same thing here, multiply by the inverse. 9 times -3 is -27. 9 times 1/9 x is x. My answer is 27. Let us see if that 27 looks right. So I'm going to check my 27 by going back and saying if I had 4/9 of -27 and I took 1 away from that, would that be the same as 5/9 of -27 and adding 2? This is another one of those problems where you knew, if you really looked at it, thought about it, you knew that your answer had to be a negative because we were saying 4/9 of something minus 1 was going to be equal to 5/9 of something plus 2. We had fewer parts of x and we're taking stuff away here versus more x and we're adding here. So I'm going to set this up as fractions because that's what my Catholic school teacher taught me to do. And I can cross cancel here. 9 goes into 9 one time. Let me get a darker color here. 9 goes into 9 once. 9 goes into -27, -3. Let's do the same thing over here. 9 goes into 9 once. 9 goes into -27, -3 times. So I have 4 times -3 is -12 minus 1. Equal to 5 times -3, which is -15 plus 2. Well, -12 take away 1 more is -13. -15 plus 2, 2 0 pairs, also -13. Yay me. Okay, go ahead, do problem number 7, and then turn the video back on to play, and we'll discuss number 7. Okay, so here's the work on the DVD rental. On the Internet Movie side, I've got a $50 membership fee plus $1.99 per disc. At the neighborhood rental store, I'm paying $3.99 a disc, but I have no membership fee. I put the 0 in. You don't have to have the 0 in the equation, but it helps me keep track of the fact that I took into account that there was no membership fee. So I did that for my first step. Then I go through and I take away the $1.99 times D, or 1.99 D here. Do that on both sides. I end up with 50. This comes down. This wasn't touched. I end up with 50 equals 2D. Divide both sides by 2, I get 25 equals D. So if you rent 25 DVDs, you will pay the same amount, no matter where you rent your 25 DVDs from. And then my check is to go in and say, here's my membership fee plus $1.99 a disc for 25 discs. That works out to $99.75. Here's my $3.99 a disc for 25 discs, also $99.75. All right, you are all set. Rest of the time is yours to go ahead and work on homework. And again, if you have any questions, you should ask. Okay, great. Thanks for listening.